Hey everybody, so as it says on the tin, this is a video in response to some hate comments that I've gotten in recent videos. I already touched on the subject in the last video where I laid out a disclaimer against commenters like this, but here we are again today. Though the main example I'm using for this video is from this other guy who has been commenting on posts of mine on Twitter who I've already engaged in good faith with to no avail, and who now dropped another comment pertaining to the same thing on the video in question and also on Twitter on my post announcing the video. I've blurred his name because I don't want anybody to go after this guy, however I don't like deleting comments, so his comments are still there. He's free to delete them himself if he wants to, otherwise business as usual. And of course, despite this not being a classical example of a hate comment, it ended up being even more annoying than those because it's misinterpreting what I say and mischaracterizing me completely while pretending to actually be a fan who has known of my videos for so long and, oh, now I'm changing and I'm becoming like Candy Pants. I used to be moderate and now I am not. And also how I don't have any evidence of anything, apparently, so this will be a thorough debunking of all of that, and will be here for posterity for all other commenters and pesky little hoes on Twitter who like to hound me on every other post, and dismissing my receipts and points while not actually bringing up any evidence of their own. Fair warning, by the way, I am muting most of you, because after I engage in good faith, and it's the same interaction over and over and over, I just mute people. I don't have time for this. Replying to these individually wastes a bunch of my free time, so here you go. And to the rest of you fellow subscribers, hey, we're almost at 15,000, so here's an early gift for you to enjoy. Not a fan of this video, man. I think you ought to just let go of these DEI arguments, because you're gonna lose more rational people and only attract those that are more radical and hateful of minorities, especially when you are not displaying actual proof of these incompetent DEI hires. You criticize people like Candy Pants for his rhetoric, but you seem to be falling into the same trap of blaming a lot of the industry's issues on DEI rather than simply on corporate greed and the desire to make games with the primary function of selling copies rather than be what creators actually want to make. Like the HR complaint thing at 26 just seems weird coming from you and dismissive of the sexual harassment that actually happens in the office and how it's largely allowed by the higher-ups. You are going down a very bad path, man, and it's only going to lead to you catering to the Indie Pants type of audience if you are not careful. Okay, so, at no point am I inciting hatred on minorities. If I am, lay it out. I am very clear in my videos that I have zero things against quote-unquote minorities. By the very definition, I would be considered one by these stupid modern standards, even though I hate the word and am against labels that separate people. I don't play the identity game. I'm me, you're you. What do you like? Jackie Chan movies? Fallout? Bowling? Let's hang out. Flower picking? The Kardashians? Cricket? Let's not hang out. That's it. Simple. That's all I care about. You can be trans, you can be black, you can be Indian, you can be a fucking furry, I don't care. I only care about what you like and what you are as a person. That's it. For example, if you're a furry, keep it to yourself, you know what I'm saying? Keep it in the bedroom. You know, when we go out to the park, if we go out to the park, you know, and I wanna feed the ducks or whatever the fuck, or the pigeons, don't dress up like a dog and run around while we're together. If you wanna do that in your own time, you can be retarded in your own time. Just don't do it around me, you know what I mean? You wanna come with me to the park? You wanna talk about fucking, I don't know, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster? Let's do it, but bring your clothes. Don't bring the dog outfit, otherwise I'm gonna pretend like I don't know you, and I'm gonna go home. In several videos of mine, I explore and delineate unreasonable hatred towards even the LGBT community in some instances whenever I honed in on issues pertaining to it, such as my Tash deep dive video and why there's such an issue with the concept and execution of representation in that game. I have done this consistently since I started in September. In fact, the Tash video is a November video. Earlier than the November video, there was one on defeminization. Check the date, October 20th. Now watch the video and there's an entire section also contextualizing representation as an example against why this body positivity bullshit in that initiative from Dove and Epic Games is so stupid. In it, the comparison I used was based off of how, when it comes to representation of LGBT people, or for example people of color, you at least have some context that understands why it's done, because it's based off of there actually having been discrimination against these people. And also, it not being a reversible thing, such as being fat is, unless you're Michael Jackson. Trying to lend more credence to that concept than the concept of making fat heroes or ugly ones in our hyper-fictionalized games based off of unreasonable, emotional argumentation that doesn't stand to scrutiny. And most importantly, that just doesn't sell. Like, you can't sell ugliness, man. There's a whole section talking about advertisement and other products as well, like for example, couches, refrigerators, cars. We all care about the aesthetics of a thing. So of course we're going to want aesthetically pleasing characters. What, am I being bigoted against refrigerators now too? Do I sound like an asshole talking about these things sometimes? Sure, maybe I do, depending on who you ask. Am I actually being an asshole? Am I being fatphobic or whatever? No, I'm not. And that is pretty much the basis of much of what I do in my channel. I am against ideological warfare, taking these labels and using them as swords and shields so that nobody can criticize something that is happening under the penalty of being labeled as a phobe or a nist of some kind. You know, depending on whatever it is that they're hiding behind. Anyone with a level head can watch that video and come away knowing that I'm not being hateful nor inciting anything at all against anyone. In fact, in many instances, I try to be considerate and open a window to the other side, even if ever so slightly. I try to hammer home the consideration of normal people out there who just want to live normal lives but have had their sexual or personal identities co-opted by extreme left weirdos to push their divisive politics into the mainstream by using these people and their identities as swords and shields, bringing them even more harm than good, which I would love to hear you address, by the way. I'm bad for calling discriminatory practices out, but the discriminators out there literally radicalizing people against minorities by using them to push unhinged, unreasonable shit are good people and should just go on without being criticized because they lay down literal traps where if you do criticize it, if you just talk about these things in a negative way, you are labeled as those aforementioned phobes and ists. Okay, dude. That was October 20th, by the way, and it hasn't changed, so this Andy Pence narrative is bullshit, but we'll get to that later, so just hang tight. Also, examples of DEI hires? Look around, brother. Are they? What do you mean? Are these companies not going the fuck down? Are we supposed to ignore that too? It's all just a big coincidence? Bad politically or ideologically motivated decisions that affect the way that a game looks, thus making them unappealing, doesn't count? Websites caked with this stuff, literally saying, "We are committed to diversity and inclusion in the workplace," with quotas. That doesn't count? This list right here from Microsoft, pause it if you want to read it. I'm not gonna go over it again for what, the 10th time? If you're a fan, you should have fucking seen it already. This doesn't count either? Decisions like hiring Corinne Bush, someone who merely worked on Sims games for years and years, and making her the director of a long-awaited sequel in a massive AAA fantasy RPG franchise, makes sense to you? That's a sensible decision of who to appoint as the director of Dragon Age? That makes sense to you? That's a natural decision to you? Not any of the other developers, not any of the other previous directors, you know, nobody at all. No, not even Mark Darrah, you know, the person that they asked to consult on. They couldn't get anybody that actually worked on the Dragon Age franchise. They had to go for someone who worked on The Sims for 10 years or more. Her BioWare, you know, developer diary page filled with identity politics in the section that was supposed to talk about Dragon Age as a franchise and as a game, that also looks perfectly normal to you? Then this game flopping hard and her failing upwards and landing a job at Wizards of the Coast is making sense to you as well? Shit, not even that long ago it was reported that one of the most prominent figures in Concord's development team, not necessarily for being high up like a director but for being a principal dev with a lot of weird stuff attached to her, the screenshots I used in the video that you commented on were actually about her, you know, the one that wanted people that were unvaccinated to get fired, the one who wanted everybody in there to call her the professor. You know, this person also just got a big upgrade. They're working at EA now. Am I supposed to ignore that as well? What else am I supposed to ignore? Or what other proof do you want? Do you want to look at what goes on at the game developer conventions? Well, here you go then. Have at it. Pause the video whenever you want to have a good hard look at the shit that is being presented there. Activists presenting panels that have nothing to do with video games as an art form and everything to do with how to use video games to push their ideology. And these aren't nobodies either. These are sponsored and worked on by people who are in top studios. The top studios themselves sponsor this stuff. You're literally looking at a push for this stuff in the industry. It's like standing atop a castle's walls and watching a marching army coming closer and closer to your door, but you're just ignoring it. None of it matters, right? Am I supposed to ignore this too? At which point are you going to take a step back and actually observe what you're looking at instead of ignoring it and then coming at me on my Twitter or in my comment sections telling me that, oh no, there's no such thing. I'm not presenting any proof. DEI is irrelevant. It's just the fucking greed in the companies, because if corporations want money, that means bad. But if corporation pushes DEI, then that means good, even if they're doing it for money. Come on, man. What are we doing here? I could be literally doing anything else right now. I could be playing a video game right now instead of doing this shit. Additionally, your implication that DEI arguments go against rationality will really show what kind of person you are, if anything. There's your major character flaw right there. In your mind, criticizing an inherently discriminatory tool that sports unavoidably hypocritical examples is not rational. To the rest of the viewers right now, isn't that shit funny? The most rational view to have between discrimination versus non-discrimination is what this guy considers radical and hateful. This is your problem, brother. This is your flawed view of the matter. I can at least substantiate mine, but you can't defend DEI in this industry for shit unless you pretend like it isn't doing what it is actually doing. And until you get rid of this bias from your head, you're never going to be able to engage with people when it comes to this topic, because if somebody merely says the words or considers it bad because of its inherent discriminatory roots, you're immediately associating it to it being a radical or hateful view. Meanwhile, I have not said a single thing that is radical nor hateful, and in several cases I have gone out of my way to do the opposite of that. Then on top of that, you go off with value judgments of my character like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you. You're gonna become the Andy Pants. Brother, what are you talking about? When I was criticizing Andy Pants last year, I already held these views. Before I made a video on Andy Pants, I made this video on DEI. This was my first video back in September, which I then fixed the audio in and re-released it in November. Go watch it. I speak against the same stuff. I bring up receipts of several other things, including blackwashing and media, which is something that I didn't even speak of at all in the video. I didn't say anything at all in the video you commented on, and yet, regardless of that, you went on about me talking about anti-white this and anti-white that. What the fuck are you talking about? And I don't do that in the DEI video either. I just point out the factual hypocrisy in blackwashing media when we all agree that whitewashing it is wrong. Again, you don't fight discrimination with more discrimination. This is not going to lead us anywhere. We're either better or we're scum. But what these people do is they pretend like they're better. They say they're better. Oh, Hollywood is progressive now. But then they just go and do the same shit, except now it's reversed. And the funniest thing is that it's reversed so that nobody goes and picks apart the entire fucking cabal of shit that is going on inside of it that defended and protected Harvey Weinstein for so many years, among other rabbit holes. Keep the people distracted and fighting each other while they get away with it. But anyway, let's get back on topic. Despite having several receipts in that video, I just don't have as many as I would have right now. I don't know everything. At the time I was just starting out, I didn't know half of the shit that I know now, and also there's been newer examples happening in the past few months, but the same reasoning that I had at the time with that video is the same that I carry on today. Nothing has changed in regards to that, including the beginning section where I talk about great examples of diversity in video games, and what I hoped that this whole DEI thing could amount to become, which would be exploring new stories in new locations, new cultures, etc. that usually Western media does not make content on. Instead, what has DEI amounted to? Nothing. It just grabs the same ideas that have been made, but they just blackwash it now. And in corporate spaces, they just start discriminating people and hiring them based off of gender, race, and sexuality while causing a divide in society through identity politics. But of course, let me guess, that's also not a real thing, right? So, it doesn't matter. Everybody has been living a delusion in the past few years. Everything is totally in our heads. None of this has actually happened. So let's go ahead and move on. What I said about Andy Pants, I still stand by. But what I said in the video, I also stand by. Over the past few days, like in my Oblivion video, once again I'm speaking against not Andy Pants directly, or specifically in this case, but against George, for example. And I'm trying to encourage people away from the extremist thinking that we have to attack everyone who wants to play the Oblivion remaster. In that video, I am literally trying to get people to chill out and criticize the employment of the body type measure, but not turn on each other over it because gamers gonna want a game, you know what I mean? Like we wanna play video games. And there is an otherwise faithful remake of a beloved 2006 game that people want to enjoy. When people choose to buy and play, they are supporting the 2006 part of a creatively rich RPG, not the 2025 part of the identity politics trying to erase male and female by removing it from the character creator and replacing it with some dehumanizing bullshit language like body type. Hey George, congratulations on your baby! Is it a body type A or a body type B? Jesus Christ. Oh hey Antonio, I don't know yet. I will wait until it can speak so that it can choose its own identity. Because truly, we never know. That and of course some other changes like removing the gendered look from armor sets where now you put on the armor on both men and women and they are indistinguishable from each other because of course it's bad for gender to be distinguishable. It might hurt some they-them's feelings. By the way, are you mad at me for saying this too now? I can't make a perfectly reasonable criticism with a joke at this practice because it's a practice that appeals to and caters to a minority. We can't point at or laugh at ridiculous things. Suddenly that means that they are immune from criticism, suddenly that means that everyone has to conform to it, everyone has to be forced to take it, because it is an enforcement. If it wasn't, the game would at least have male, female, and then body type A and B. At least. But you don't even have that option. You can't even get rid of the ideological influence of using the body type. So yeah, no, big dog, I don't think so. I'm going to keep criticizing this and making fun of it. Everyone will because it just is ridiculous. Back up a few 30 seconds and play the ridiculous baby analogy again. That's how stupid this is. And then it's like, why do you care? Why bring it up? Why talk about it? Why criticize this? Well, if it's important enough to change, to enforce it on a video game, not even give an option for people to turn it off, then clearly it is very important. People act like it's not important, like you talk about it and you're just attacking minorities. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to talk about this shit. Also, if the company removed it tomorrow, oh my god, the backlash. Holy, then I would really love to see the comments going, why do you care? I mean, we already saw that with Inzoi. Inzoi didn't have, I think it was gay relationships or something, like by default the characters, they would just bang each other if they were as if they were heterosexual, and then people were like, what the fuck, why isn't there more gay couples? Suddenly it matters, doesn't it? It matters so much that even PC Gamer made an article about it. This is a problem in the industry. To look at it and being like, it's just bad games and corpo greed is like putting on a pair of big blinders. Why are we ignoring the massive elephant in the room that is literally comprised of that greed in the first place, by the way? Are you also going to ignore what's been happening over in the other side of the ocean of entertainment over at the film and TV industry and how it's been getting completely ravaged by this ideology as well, which is especially noticeable in Disney, who dove headfirst into these practices and initiatives and even weaponized them against their own audience alongside the access media, which also happens very often right now on gaming as well. Does that not stand as evidence of how destructive this is in media? Not just the creation of it, but also in the way that it purposely divides people and pits them against one another instead of existing as something that everyone can find joy and commonalities in by being grounded in fiction, and if touting any values at all as part of a message, doing them in proper ways with good writing and a focus on common human values that appeal inherently to us instead of very divisive contemporary political issues that are often grounded in so much bad faith, so much hypocrisy and so much double standards, so much hatred even, that it literally doesn't work. Have you ever sat down to try and figure out why does Tolkien work but Rings of Power doesn't? Have you ever asked yourself why is it that companies are going out of their way to antagonize their audiences, divide them, instead of making products with mass appeal? How much are we going to keep ignoring here, dude? Are we also going to ignore the entire Sweet Baby Inc. saga as well? Are we going to ignore how they straight up represent this shit? Their work is literally based in applying it to games? Are we going to ignore their forcefulness? How they intimidated and coerced their ways into studios to let them in and fuck with the content in their games, in their little pursuit for power and takeover? Instead of going off about how none of this is real, go and do some research, dude. Go watch Master of the TDS's videos on it on Gothic Therapy with his wife, or smash JT's livestream clips when he had Master of the TDS on with him, and they took a dive into videos where they found these moron activists straight up admitting and exposing their own little scam. It's all in there, man. It's open and public information. And by the way, if the name Master of the TDS is triggering you, don't worry. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It's a completely different acronym or whatever. It's about Yu-Gi-Oh! Or some shit like that. I hate saying Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that's how they say it in English, you know, in America. I think that's... You got any Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, bro? It's not Yu-Gi-Oh! Bro, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how the guy shouts it in the intro of the end. Anyway, let's continue. This is about as useful as arguing, you know, is it football or soccer? It's fucking football. You Americans, you know, you guys, I know I got a lot of you in my subscribers, you know, there's like, what, like 30+% of you guys in there, at least? You guys gotta quit that shit, man. You know, like football is with your feet. It's in the name. Football. You got a ball, you got a foot, and you kick it. You guys, you don't even use your feet. You use your foot like once in the game or some shit, and then you just run into each other with the ball in your hands. And you know what's most fucked up about that is that if you called it handball, it couldn't even be called handball because there's another sport called handball where they only use their balls and their hands. And so American football would lose. It loses football and it loses handball. I don't even know what the fuck you guys should call your sport. You'd have to call it like egg bash or something, you know what I mean? Anyway, companies are greedy. No shit, they love money. Yet here we are at a point where corporate activism is landing these companies in the position of not even doing the logical decision of catering to their fan bases to yank even more money out of them. And why is that? Well, if you paid attention, it was in the video. Admittedly, I failed to speak on it because if I was to touch on everything and add examples of everything, then these videos would be way too long. But I did put it in the video through an image and some text on the screen, showing that corporate activism is also profitable. And there was even a contextual clip of the BlackRock CEO and the other guy next to him in the same convention admitting that they are forcing behaviors monetarily. They add these targets that companies have to reach in terms of diversity, and then those companies have to meet those targets no matter what, no matter where, no matter who or who they are with, or they will be impacted. Did you not see it or hear it? Here it is again.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year. And what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay? We're doing the same. And so it's just, you have to force behaviors.
Some people, they love to complain about corporate greed, but the moment that corporate greed works in the favor of their ideology, or at least in favor of something that they clearly are in support of, then suddenly they're okay with it, and that's precisely the kind of vibe that this guy is giving off. Just diverting the conversation to something else and just kind of brushing all of these nuggets and pieces of information aside. And all this crap in this video is all off the top of my head. I'm not even sleuthing for a week straight, digging and digging to find more and more shit to present to you. This is straight up all out in the open. Are we supposed to ignore this stuff as well? Is it not admissible either? Because if you want to dig deeper, then boy oh boy have I got the channel and the Twitter account for you. It's called Madam Savvy. Go and have at it. Enjoy plunging into the rabbit hole, and before you say that she's also in the Andy Pants field, rest assured that she is constantly dunking on him and on George Torch and on JDA as well. They hate her and they call her woke too, if that's any form of consolation to you. Of course there's other problems in the industry. Did I not just make several videos talking about it, such as the increase of the prices? Did I not just talk about some of them in this very video with the frivolous spending, the way publishers parse every idea through a committee of morons who want to apply everything the company needs them to apply, such as, hey, is this game monetizable? Hey, is the general game design apt for microtransactions or maybe some premium currencies? Hey, is this game apt for cranking shitloads of bloated content into it to retain the consumer's engagement? I mentioned it too. I just focused on the other stuff as well because there is other stuff to worry about out there, and your attitude towards it proves that we still need more videos about it. Some people still apparently believe that none of this matters, it's all fine. Let the companies keep doing what they're doing. I'm sure they'll figure out a way to make a better game someday without any changes at all as to who they hire, the placements in their companies, who they go to, the consultants that they contract, none of that fucking matters. What are you talking about, Dezembro, you fucking idiot? What are you talking about? What are you fucking cosplaying as Andy Pants? What are you doing, Dezembro? Your whataboutisms are ridiculous, your assertion that this isn't impacting the industry is unfounded, and your emotional manipulation and revisionism of my character that you're disappointed in because I am turning into this or that and I'm going to draw in XYZ's audience is stupid. Bro, I am arguing with their fucking audiences on Twitter almost every week now because of them having gone so incredibly far out that they're demonizing every little thing in the game and turning on any person who disagrees with them or merely has a more moderate view, calling them fakes and frauds and secret wokes or woke lights. That's what the other guy called, Smash AT called them a woke light, like a Bud Light or a Diet Coke. So what the fuck am I, big dog? Am I woke or am I turning into Andy Pants? I think all of you morons making retarded judgments of my character should actually just get together in a room for about 10 full days and just discuss it among yourselves. And then when you're done, you can come out and publicly announce the verdict. It'll still be completely useless and caked in unreliable, biased and one-sided thinking, but hey, at least I get to have 10 fucking days of peace and quiet. Let's carry on. I am also at no point dismissing the sexual harassment that happened in the office. You're the one who is hearing shit that isn't there. You hallucinate stuff, and then you pin it on me. How is this my fault? There is simply no sense in drowning your company entirely by a morale-killing and creatively bankrupt ideology. It's overkill, dude. It's like if there's a murder at Disney World or some shit, and instead of investigating the murder, getting the culprit and charging them to the full extent of the law, straight up making an example out of them, punishing them for a heinous act, you just shut down several areas of the park that are deemed too dangerous for people to be in. Like, for example, if there's a ride where you go in like a dark tunnel and there's a light show inside and some animatronics and stuff, you gotta shut those down because it's too dark. Some asshole with a gun might be hiding in a dark corner. You also can't buy any food in there because the food could be poisoned. And you also have some weirdo looking over your shoulders at all times. You can't even go on rides alone with your date or your family. You gotta have like 2 spazzed out bodyguards making sure that everything you touch and everywhere you go is safe and secure. At that point, you're just screwing up your entire business for one thing. Where's the advocacy for making Ubisoft's CEO accountable, by the way? Why the fuck are people advocating for DEI instead of advocating for the guy who was supposed to watch over his people, the guy who was supposed to be responsible for the women in his company getting harassed? I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. If the CEO got fired for his terrible incompetence, which goes far deeper than just the harassment, he also doesn't know how to run a game company. But if he did, the DEI thing will still be in place. You wanna know why? Because it has nothing to do with the harassment. But regardless, isn't it funny how that shit works? I mean, that dude just came out and went, we are going to do 7 DEI departments and we are going to fuck up the entire environment in our air studios, so much so that there will be a morale drop so sharp that it is ridiculous. We will do it so hard that beauty as a concept will be looked down upon by our developers because of its slightly appealing to male audiences. Allegedly, of course. And then suddenly everything was fine. Nobody ever brought up the harassment cases anymore. The games media, everybody shut up. The games media spent so much time demonizing gamers for just, wanting good video games. You would think that they would be banging on their doors like, when are you going to take responsibility for what you allowed to happen in your company? They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck anymore. The company is progressive now. They're the good guys now, bro. You know what I'm saying? They're protected now. Now we are the bad guys. If we call this stuff out, we're the bad guys because, we're just chuds, we're chuds. We just want chud video games. That's it, right? Yeah. It's like somebody comes out and goes, if you blink, you're gay, and then nobody blinks. By the way, if you blink during this video, you are gay. Just the peer pressure from that comment has already made a bunch of people blink. Don't worry, guys. It's only gay if somebody is watching. Now, let's be fair. This guy could say that I'm not calling, Ubisoft out because of the harassment, and that's true. I wasn't. I was calling this practice out within Ubisoft and other companies, it's general, because of its negative effect on some of the games that they are making. Why do I do that? Because in my mind, that is much more important in the current context of the company's downfall. Because emotional-based argumentation just doesn't work. It was tried once already, all it took was these pricks going progressive, and then suddenly everybody just stopped commenting about it, everybody just stopped criticizing the goddamn company. Now it's even considered to be old news and you can't even bring it up without somebody going, well, what's your angle? Like, for example, if I bring it up and I happen to not like Assassin's Creed Shadows, people just say, no, you're just calling this out because you hate Assassin's Creed Shadows. So what the fuck is the point of bringing it up anymore, you know what I mean? They're literally protected. Last year, IGN and a bunch of other journalists went after a Chinese company, the ones that made Black Myth Wukong, and they even went as far as to fabricate shit that they were saying that they never said. Why? Because they weren't protected. If they had a page fully committed to, diversity and inclusion, if they had hired Sweet Baby Inc. to come in and let them work on the monkey game, maybe then they would have been protected too, but they weren't. So they had to put up with a bunch of slander online from Western access news media. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that this happens. These access media outlets are already lying in their reviews, giving high ratings to bad games, and straight up lying in the reviews saying that it's a return to form, blah 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 blah, when it's objectively not, based on whether or not the company is protected. So why would it surprise me that they're making shit up about them as well? And if anybody's wondering why so jaded, dude, why not? It's been years of this. Years, bro. I'm tired of just being like, it's okay, whatever. Am I really going to get upset at this? This is internet bullshit. Why should I care? I'm gonna go to work, and I'm gonna come home, and I'm gonna get a shower, and I'm gonna play Witcher 3. Why should I worry about this stuff? I already did that for a long time, and nothing changed, so I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. I'm tired of doing it. I want to do something. I want to talk about it. You want to watch the video? Watch the video. Don't want to watch the video? Don't watch the video. It's simple. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Why are you ignoring the entire point that is described on screen and just going, oh, you're dismissing sexual harassment? What does creating bad-looking female characters born out of this terribly claustrophobic HR environment have to do with stopping sexual harassment? Why does punctuation in your messages being a problem have to anything at all to do with abusive behavior in the office as well? Are you getting it yet? Let's substantiate it a bit more. In this interview with Corinne Bush, there's more examples of this stuff where emotional manipulation is at an all-time high, but sense is at an all-time low. Like this line here, for example. It's hard when you have to ask the question, is this game for me? Do I belong here? And games are better for it when we can say, yes, you belong here. Why are we talking about belonging when it comes to a video game? Video games should be easy. You look at the box, you go, huh, and then you either buy it or you don't. And either you like it, or you love it even, or you don't. Why are we bringing this kind of emotional and political weight, because it is political, read the entire damn article if you're skeptical about it being political, to a video game? It's a disingenuous way of framing her argument. And as to the process of making them, here's another line from the same article. In Bush's mind, not embracing the lived experiences of the development team would result in stories and worlds that feel less relatable, less alive. Game developers also need to feel safe in what they do, which ultimately means being able to see themselves reflected in their work. Undoubtedly, people can bring a lot of personal value to what they're creating. That's perfectly fine. That's actually natural. People with different experiences and backgrounds have different ideas that they can add onto something that they're all together creating, and that can be truly amazing when done right. Tolkien's personal experiences in the First World War shaped the epic that is Lord of the Rings. However, this is not what is being talked about here. This isn't the same thing that Corinne is talking about. When she, and all of those other terrible writers that got fired by the way, are talking about this, it's surface level identity politics dog shit that nobody except the 1% of the modern audience can relate to or find interesting. Therefore, it is not for mass appeal. I've already said in previous videos as well that I don't have a problem with people who have these views to create media based on these views, but they have to take into account that the media that they're creating has a much smaller appeal. Therefore, they can't inject themselves into massive franchises like in the AAA space and try to twist and mangle them into fitting this modern audience per se, because it will result in failure, and then we are fucked out of our favorite franchises for nothing. Companies like Sweet Baby Inc. literally exist to co-opt these big franchises and do this to them. How could I not speak against it? Well, I don't understand what you want out of me, bro. If this is what is being extreme to you, akin to becoming like the Andy Pants, then I don't know what videos of mine you've been watching. And then they also bring that stuff up about safety in the workplace, which is only attained, apparently, according to this article. Okay, big dog, remember, I'm not saying this myself, I'm not making this up, it's the director of the game. According to the director of the game, to them, to the developers that created this masterpiece of entertainment, safety in the workplace is whether or not they can see themselves reflected in their work. If they can't, if they have to work on Banjo-Kazooie, for example, then they're fucked, because suddenly workplace is hostile because, they can't relate. Unless they have a guy in there who identifies as a squirrel or some shit, you never know. Do you understand what I'm talking about now when I mock this safety nonsense? This is the soft shit that I'm referring to. Obviously not actual abuse. What do you think? I'm fucking crazy or some shit? Because not even they are talking about actual abuse. They're talking about nonsense like this. Got any actual abusers in the companies? Fire them. Prosecute them. Send them to prison. But for the love of God, keep making video games with your video game studio, not turning it into something else that just so happens to make video games for social impact, because doing this is obviously not proving very profitable now, is it? I am not against human resources as a force in a company for employees to come forward and report actual cases of harassment or abuse or malpractice or whatever else may be going on. I am against the human resources as it stands right there, exemplified in the video. Again, did you watch it? Where punctuation in a message or the lack of a goddamn emoji can be considered hostile? When there's a internal cultural shift that prevents them from being creative and appeal to their mostly male audiences? Like, do you understand the problem already? You're attributing shit to me that I never said or advocated for. You're choosing to misinterpret the things that I'm saying and paint them in the worst light possible. Could I have done a better job in the video? Could I have extended that video to like 1 hour plus, just to make sure that I delineate every stupid point with, okay guys, so listen, I am not an unhinged bigotron. While I am criticizing this obvious thing right here, this does not mean that I wish to wage war on the entire nation of the Philippines. Sure, I could have. I used to do that very often in my earlier videos, but I have slowed that down over the past months so that I'm not always repeating things, and also because I believe that the majority of the audience that I've amassed so far, the subscriber base, is not stupid enough to need me to fucking tell them that, with so many other videos of mine over time giving them a general idea of where I stand with these matters. And that's to say nothing of bad faith enough to impose beliefs on me that I never expressed. I believe that the vast majority of people listening to me right now are not morons who are going to miss every damn thing I say, or intellectually dishonest people who will cherry pick statements to twist and mangle into whatever they need them to be. There's always room for disagreements, and I have plenty of them with even subscribers. Sometimes I'm responding to comments, they have disagreements, and we're just having a back and forth. Although of course when it's just random commenters with just garbage and bad faith, I don't even care anymore. I don't engage anymore. I just ignore them. I mean, just look at the time I wasted with this. And I know myself. I know very well that I'm not going to just slap a static background on this video. I know my OCD ass is going to want to pick background music to add to it, adjust the audio levels as I go along the video to make sure that they're not too loud, pick footage from it, try not to pick footage that I've used recently so it's not too repetitive. I know I'm going to edit the audio as I usually do, and all for what amounts to what looks like genuine bad faith, because this is genuinely a waste of goddamn time. And I was having such a nice day too. I was off today, I was planning to take a chill pill, I was browsing some furniture because I want to set up a new space for myself in another room because like I said in the previous video, where I'm at right now gets way too hot in the summer and I can't make videos like that, and you know, summer is coming. Instead, I take 5 minutes, I open YouTube to check if the video is doing well, maybe dip into the comments a bit, and now I've had to deal with this nonsense again. We already had a back and forth the other day on Twitter, including that other dude, Sir Damned. Every reply I sent out was returned with at least a small degree of ignoring the shit that I was laying out, and even using screenshots to substantiate it. When I joined in, Sir Damned didn't even bother to continue. He got sick of the disingenuous back and forth, and he dipped. Then I carried on a bit longer until I was like, nah fam, this is a waste of time and I got work to do, so then I dipped too. Now you pop up in the comments and Twitter again saying that you're a fan. In your replies here you said, and very well, that you can be a fan of someone while having disagreements. True, absolutely no problem with that at all. I am a fan of several content creators who sometimes have takes that I disagree with as well. But as a fan of theirs, I also have a general idea of their content and character from having watched several videos or sat through several live streams, and so when I have a disagreement, I'm not gonna go in the comments and making up fanfictions about becoming something that they are not or implying things that they didn't say. If that's your definition of being a fan, then more power to you, but honestly, I don't see the point of being a fan of someone who apparently, according to you, is dismissive of sexual harassment. Same for the Andy Pants comments. You really think anyone who is a staunch Andy Pants fanatic, someone who is actively looking for those more extreme, edgy views that leave no space at all for nuance or moderation, are going to survive on my channel for more than 2 or 3 videos? They're gonna bolt immediately. Why are you being so goddamn disingenuous? If you want to support DEI, then make that argument and substantiate it. Try not to ignore the examples that people are giving you, of course, because if you do, there's just going to be this tired bullshit like the other day on Twitter where we're going back and forth and nothing's happening. Tackle it. Argue why none of it matters, argue why the examples are not applicable, for example. Feel free to do that anytime that you want. You might actually have a conversation on your hands if you do it effectively, but drop the mischaracterization nonsense because you look stupid comparing me to Andy Pants when 5 uploads ago I was arguing for moderation and not extremism while making fun of yet another Andy Pants type, aka George Torch. Now let's have a look at Andy Pants videos. Yep, I can definitely see the resemblance there, especially while listening to the content. One upload down from that, or technically 2 since one of them is a skit on Sungrand, I was making a 2-hour-long breakdown of Assassin's Creed Shadows without mentioning anything at all to do with the culture war. Not a goddamn thing. And 3 uploads before that, I was once again separating myself from the Yorch Torches and the John De La Rosas of this world in yet another video. Do I have to do this to separate myself? No, I don't really owe this to anybody. I just disagree with these guys so hard that we naturally clash. What a waste of an afternoon, and now the evening too, because of course I'm gonna be fucking editing this. I could have bought a bed, I could have bought some furniture, some things to put on my wall to help with the audio bouncing around, a nice little shelf to put my games instead of having them in a box, maybe play some Oblivion or Expedition 33, at least let this video stand as a general reply to anyone else who wants to keep mischaracterizing the things that I say or arguing that none of this is real. Oh, and a final piece of information, call it whatever you want, by the way. If you don't want to call it DEI, call it Bridge, call it SHRM, hell, maybe go back to that old classic that everyone hates so much, which is woke. People called things woke because it was straightforward, right? Self-explanatory. Can be a bit iffy because of personal interpretations of the word, even from some people on the right. After all, like I said, fans of Yorch and Andy Pants literally call me woke. But it was straightforward, I think most people understood what people meant when they used it. But of course, other people, they started demonizing the word and those who used it, so, some of us had to stop using the word woke, and, what do? We go straight to the objective. We call it what it is. We call it by the very word that these companies have on their websites. By the way, sorry I didn't use an image of it when bringing up CD Projekt Red. Here it is right now on screen, from their website. So we use the objective word, and now the objective word can't be used either. If we use it, here we go again. Racist, grifters, conspiracy theorists, blah 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 blah. So honestly, I don't care anymore, just use whatever word you want to use because I'm tired of finding new ones to make myself understood on the matter. I'm out. To everyone else watching, thank you once again for stopping by, and it also should go without saying, as their name is blurred, since, you know, you never know if this guy or maybe one of the other usual haters who I have muted on Twitter for bothering me with the same nonsense, you know, they may go ahead and misinterpret what I'm doing here with this video, so let me make this clear as crystal. Do not go and harass these people. My final thought on this is this. Can I be more chill when I talk about these issues, these matters? Can I, you know, present them a little bit better? Can I come into them with a softer glove? Sure. Absolutely, yeah, sure. Have I done that before, you know, when I was a little bit more timid with a microphone, for example? Yeah, sure. I can accept that, but I haven't changed my values, I haven't changed my views, and I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not going into the mountain of the Andy Pants. That is just ridiculous. And it's also ridiculous to point these things out and be like, oh god, it's so embarrassing, so heated over a matter like this. Not something that this guy said, but something that I read sometimes from other people, sometimes on X. And to that, it's just what I said before. These problems exist, and I'm tired of acting unbothered by them. Tired of walking on eggshells when having to address it. I don't mind being calmer when it comes to addressing these things because, you know, usually that's actually the better way of trying to reach people, but these matters are inherently heated and sometimes things are going to be a bit more fiery. It's what happens when you're dealing with matters that involve hypocrisy, double standards, manipulation, bad faith, etc. Or in cases like this, total mischaracterizations of myself or my content. But anyway, that's about it. With that said, I will see you guys on the next video. Take care.